you never heard of. Hey everybody, welcome to the Common Folk Podcast with Ben, Morgan, and Andy.
All right, welcome to Common Folk.
Welcome back to the pod.
It's a nice day.
Beautiful day.
We got a lot of snow this past weekend, right? Week. Are we getting more?
We're going to get more.
They're saying so, but who knows?
Yeah.
Well, let's hope it's over by then.
You know, that morning show that I've been hosting.
Yeah.
I got to give a AccuWeather forecast.
Okay, so do it.
Okay, I'll do it right. I'll do it right here. I got it pulled up in
You
front
ready?
of me. I'll read you what I did today.
Don't cuss. You're going to get in trouble.
Well, no, I don't cuss. Okay. So I like to go through about 3 or 4 different forecasts and then mesh them together and try to make the most sense of them. That's how I do it. So I go to like 2 or 3 different entities and I try and mash it all within a minute here. All right. You ready, Ben?
I'm ready. Do it.
Partly cloudy conditions early, giving way to mostly clear skies for much of the day. This morning we have a northeast breeze at speeds of 6 to 15 miles per hour. Wind gusts up to 27. Heavier winds could pick up this afternoon starting around 2 p.m. Temperature high today near 52 degrees, so beautiful day out there, with a low tonight of around 27, so just below that freezing point. So be careful if you're out there driving. It is currently 32 degrees at the B103 studio.
Look at that.
Like such a good radio voice.
That's why you get paid the big bucks here at Common Folk.
Oh, boy, there we go.
Guys, that's good. That is good.
But where I was going with that is I do those in like an hour or 2 hour advance.
Okay.
And sometimes I'm just so far off. I mean, so wrong. It's unbelievable.
But you still play it?
Well, I'll have to go back and re-record it.
Okay.
But every once in a while, it'll play through. Like about a month ago, one was playing, and it was just like that, and it was freaking snowing out.
Oh,
and I called for clear skies. I'm like, I just dialed this. That's
When it's snowing.
Yeah, it's the best information I had. And the ladies in the office were like, Andy, it's snowing. I'm like, oh.
Shoot.
All right, I'll go back and redo that. Hold on.
You should put like a disclaimer at the beginning, like,
I'm not a meteorologist.
yeah, I cannot be held responsible for this.
Oh, just throw all those AccuWeather and everybody under
And
the bus.
say it like super quick.
I should take the Alec Baldwin approach.
There you go.
It's not my fault.
There you
I
go.
didn't write this report.
Yep,
I'm just reading.
No one told me it was snowing. I didn't know.
Gee whiz.
Like an auctioneer, you could just be like, like right at the end or the front.
Oh yeah, just go do all the fast
Like,
talk.
yeah.
I'm not liable for anybody.
Even if you don't say anything, but you just go, blah, 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 then you're not responsible.
Right,
Yeah.
exactly.
Did you, when you just did that right there, like it was magical. Was it like Step Brothers? Did you feel
Yeah.
you feel like you came out of your body and was watching yourself
Out of body experience.
say that, make that announcement right there?
I thought you were gonna go with the old school. It was Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
Where he was in the quiz bowl.
Yeah.
Oh,
He
God.
just smashed that really tough geopolitical answer, and he like fell over. He's like
Yeah, he's
almost
like,
passed
"Oh."
out. Yeah. What happened? I blacked out.
Yeah.
No, I've been after it a while now to where I can kind of shift gears and
Yeah.
get into that. So
Yeah, that was good.
That is good.
So yeah,
Proud of
we're
you.
enjoying a nice day today. High at 52.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Andy,
today.
it's snowing.
I'm gonna have to redo that
Did you
forecast.
forget to look out the window?
I'm kidding. It's not.
So,
That's Nebraska weather, though.
that's right, man. What we got today, man?
Well, we like to keep things relevant, right, and top of mind, and sometimes we like to follow the headlines like we have past couple of episodes. So one I kind of wanted to get into, it's been a little bit of uproar in some of my circles, my buddies. The NBA is so soft right now that they actually had to. And let me just read the headline of this article. NBA All-Star Draft to begin with reserves in apparent effort to avoid embarrassment for last player picked.
Wow.
So what they're saying is last year when they had a fun little draft that they televised and make a bunch of money off of and then redistribute that money to the players. The player that got picked last, his feelings were hurt and he didn't like that. So we're reconstructing the draft process to save any embarrassment.
Who was this guy? Can I would we even know? Is he
A lot of-
now a good player?
Well,
Who was mad because he was picked last. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and there was some resentment there. So the player that a lot of this people draw this back to, his name's James Harden, and he is.
Yeah, I do know who that is.
Yeah, and there's a lot of things that people just don't like about his game, myself included. He just dribbles and dribbles and dribbles the ball. He doesn't pass it around, and then he just jacks up threes from wherever, whether he's open or not, whether he's shooting well or not. But give the guy his due. Last year, he was amongst the leaders in assists, points scored, minutes played. So it was pretty ridiculous that he was last picked. And he was last picked because the players don't like him in this new
I'm
format.
sure not.
Of course they don't. I mean, he's the biggest ball hog of them all, and it's a ball hog league now.
So let me get this straight. What they're saying is that this was the roster. This was the picking of the roster for the All-Star game?
All-Star game.
Okay. And so this dude who was last picked or the last few or whatever are mad that they got picked last. But the reality is that you got picked.
You got picked for an All-Star game.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that didn't get picked, right?
I mean, just look at an NBA roster. Only 15 dudes make a roster. So
And how many teams? There's got to be, you know what I mean?
Think of all the different.
Yeah.
Think of all the little boys playing middle school basketball right now, where their dream is to play in the NBA. It's like, buddy, I need to level with you. Your percentage or your chances of making that are .0001. Like that's where you're at right now.
Right.
If we just run like the raw data.
That's
on it.
literally like talking to my son right now.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Joel,
but like, oh,
as good as you, I mean, try hard and, jump high and all this other stuff. But, I mean, just by the raw data, even if he was 6'3", 6'3", eighth grader, his percent would still be .00 something.
yeah, like slim to none.
Yeah, so the fact that we have one of the best in the game complaining and having his team and his group of people bash the NBA and all this other stuff for getting picked last in an All-Star game. Oh, by the way, all the uproar and people going back and forth, that draws more to it, more attention.
For sure.
So they make more money off of it. And the whole show itself is ridiculous because you have two players picking. So, of course, they're going to pick their buddies or people they like. That also falls back on you. Don't be a...
So did they pick, they have normally two captains? Mm-hmm. How did those get picked? Like voted?
I think that might get voted on by the fans or just the two hottest players from each side of the conference.
Because I'm not familiar with this. So this is like backyard dodgeball. You have two people. Mm-hmm. I pick Ben the next week. You pick this person. That's how this works.
It's a ridiculous beauty pageant.
Okay.
For men that are 6'5" and taller that are the best athletes in the world. And they are so soft now that they can't even stand being the last picked, to where this year they picked the reserves first, then the all-star starters. Well, are you so stupid to realize that if you're the last reserve picked in the first round of picks, you're the last?
You're still last.
Like, what are we doing?
But you're saying it first.
Right. Like, how are we that stupid? Is that really going to protect your precious little ego?
Right.
Well, at least you didn't say me last and they didn't make fun of me.
So when does this go down?
So this happened this past weekend.
It did.
And to make fun of it, when it came down to picking the final roster, there, believe it or not, Ben, there's two people left on stage.
Oh, shocker.
And out of the two, the guy that knew he was probably going to be last, this Jokic, they call him Joker, overseas player, he's phenomenal, plays in Denver. He just jokingly ran up and gave LeBron James a hug and went over on his team. Didn't even give him an option not to pick him last. So they made a joke out of it anyway.
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So it's just...
So that guy gets it. I mean...
Everyone gets it, and it's unbelievable that we jump through these hoops. You know what I mean? The NBA as a whole, they're another one of these entities that say one thing but do another. Like they talk about equal rights and this and that, and we really do give a darn. Oh, you do? Then why do you still deal with China? Why do you still go on tour over in China when all this data is coming out, the way they treat their people, the way they treat their public, limiting freedoms, treating people like dogs. But you're going to point at a police department in some random town in Michigan and tear that apart?
Right.
No, you're making billions of dollars off of China. Shut up, NBA.
Yeah, there it is. There it is right there.
Yep. So
it's it's crazy. Like you said, the this whole crybaby mentality BS and feeding into it. Like, why wouldn't they just so that happens? Mm-hmm. You know, this guy complains, "Oh, it was the last pick." You know, blah blah blah. Why wouldn't the NBA just say, "Yo, man, if you don't like it, don't play."
don't play.
There's another guy behind you that didn't get picked that would have loved to have been the last pick.
Yeah, I would just fire him
and just move on.
Yeah, just fire him.
I mean,
and no one likes him anyway.
There you go.
But why does he have a name? And I know who that is.
He really is one of the best.
But that
I don't like him either, but he's one of the best.
He's obviously a good player if he makes the All-Star game.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
But if he's just chucking shots all the time
That's
and is
true.
such a ball hog, I don't know, And if I wouldn't like to be, he's probably just butthurt that all the other players don't like him very much.
Well,
Probably.
it's also a culture that's it's not his fault that this is the way it's being run. He's just taking advantage of it. Like, he can complain and get his way.
Yes.
He's allowed.
Yes. Yes. And
He shouldn't be allowed to do that.
That's a big complaint.
But he's an adult.
He is an adult, but he's never been treated like an adult.
True.
I mean, think about it. All these guys are making millions of dollars doing stuff that they did in grade school.
True.
They're just really good at it. You know, there's a story, even going back to the GOAT, and we'll say the real GOAT, Michael Jordan. And I don't want to get in that discussion. But anyhow, there's a great story where he didn't even make varsity his freshman year.
Yes, we've all
He
heard
got
that.
cut from the team. And then he came back and practiced really hard. And he made it his sophomore year. And now then he turned into Michael. You know what also happened over that summer? He grew 6 inches. He grew 6 inches. Like, he was already a phenomenal athlete, and then to just throw 6 inches on top of that, and he end up being 6'6", when it was all said and done. So, like, a lot of things have to fall in place.
Sure.
And that's another thing where you should, like what we're kind of getting at here, you should be grateful, James Harden, that you got selected to another All-Star game. And the fact that you got picked last, well, that probably is more of a character issue.
Absolutely.
Between you and your peers.
Yep.
Not the NBA and people being meanie pants to you.
Yep.
And even if they are being mean, why not embrace it, or just be happy, or just fine. So what? I'm still an all-star.
Yeah, right. 100%.
And he was a starter. Like, I think he was the last starter.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that's
And
what
who
that
does
says.
he play for?
Well, now
Did he get traded?
he's such a whiner. He demanded a trade earlier this year. After he demanded a trade 2 years before that.
Good. Maybe these owners aren't putting up with this BS.
Well, that's kind of what happened in Brooklyn was his last stop. Now he's in Philadelphia. They're just like, you know what? Yeah, out. You're out. Just go. Fine. But it goes back to these players are so soft, they just make a demand and then they get it.
Yes.
And it's not a good look, and you're losing fans left and right. Like, people are wondering why is the XFL becoming a thing? Right. Well, because people would rather watch football during the off season than watch you crybabies play a watered-down version of basketball.
And I think one of the things that I always look at is the fact that, take the NBA, take any of these sports, take the NFL. I can give you a couple examples with that as well. How many of the fans are adolescents? A lot of them.
Yep.
A really lot of them. And you guys are responsible for making an example for these kids.
Oh my gosh, absolutely.
Yeah,
And-
whether you want it or not.
Yeah, exactly. Whether you want it or not, you got it. You don't get a choice. Not only the player, but the people running the league, the people running the teams, all those people, they have to take that responsibility. And so many of them don't. Things like this, it's like, oh, we'll just teach kids that they can just be crybabies and they'll get what they want. It's no big deal.
Or-
Even if they are like
Why
one
not?
of the best, they could still be crybabies. Like, they don't have to own up, And just like we talked about in our previous episode when we were talking about the Alec Baldwin thing, it's the same thing. That's one of the biggest reasons that I have a problem with this is because the story that it's putting out there, the example that it's making of, no, you don't have to take responsibility. Just do what you want. Blame it on someone else. Like it's, no, you didn't do what you were supposed to do. Oh, you know what? No, that other person should have done it. No big deal. Just throw a little money at it. It'll be okay.
Yeah.
It's things like that. It's so ridiculous.
And one of the paths that it leads me down, and I can't believe it, but, the players that I grew up watching, Michael Jordan, Karl Malone, Charles Barkley, he's on a pregame on TNT, one of the most successful pregame shows there has ever been when it comes to sports broadcasting. He can't stand it, and he's been outspoken for years. over how the NBA is and how the players act nowadays. One of the common things that players do, they won't play back-to-back games. They want a day off.
Oh, gosh.
So, like Jared, my younger brother, went to an NBA game a couple of years ago. The 3 top players for both teams didn't play because it was the game.
Because they had just played.
Yeah.
Charles
Charles
come
Barkley's like,
on.
you guys are millionaires. You're making 10 times on our backs because we laid this foundation for you. We gained this popularity.
Yeah.
And now you're using it in such a manner where you're not even suiting up for half your games. Like, what are we doing? And I mean, it's tough to go to bat for the players. Now, I will play devil's advocate here, and I'll say it's not the players' fault. In fact, you can say it is their fault in that, look, they're trying to elongate their career. And by taking a night off, once a week.
Yeah, but it's their jogging anyways on the court.
Well, I think
I view it as it's their job.
Yeah.
They
Well,
should
but
have
I'm
to
just
play
saying, like,
basketball
they shouldn't
games.
be that tired. Like, come on.
Well,
you
it's-
could be able to play 2 games in a row.
you totally should be able to. I completely agree with that. I think that we probably are discounting a little bit the fact that like these dudes do work hard.
Oh, my God.
Oh, absolutely. But you put
big-
in the training.
There's a big commitment. There's a lot of training. There's all that kind of stuff. Like that's important. They deserve to be rewarded for that. Not to the level that they get rewarded for it, in my opinion, but that's separate.
Yeah.
But yes, they do work hard. They do a lot of big things. But yeah, I mean, to play 2 games in a row, come on.
Yeah, and that should just be commonplace. You should just have to suit up and play basketball because that's what we're paying you to do.
Yeah, and one would think, again, Jared goes to a game and doesn't get to see maybe one of his favorite play. What if that's a kid? Like, you paid tons of money to see this game.
Right.
And he's not going to be in it.
The
3
top-
of them?
I think the top 2 players for the Warriors weren't in, and the top player for the Suns are out as well. So your 3 draws, your biggest names or brands weren't even in the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
So to tie this to like the sports betting world a little bit, is that being is that a factor?
oh,
huge
yeah. Is that
factor.
talked about, though?
Huge factor. It's a huge factor.
Yeah.
And the NBA is freaking wild to where those lines come out late. They're very volatile.
Really?
And it's where your sharps can make a lot of money because they'll have somebody on the ground floor, and you can try and stop it, and you can say, hey, don't be talking to bookies and this and that, but you can't stop trainers and coaches from talking to their buddies or whatever. So, yeah, you'll see, and that's where it's going as far as broadcasting even, like reporting on it. Like, you're almost better off watching Caesar's book out of Vegas. Like, if there's a question if a dude's not going to play or he is going to play, watch that line. And if it moves one way or the other way, that's your indication of the top scorer.
I bet, yeah.
And is that across most sports, or do you think NBA is the worst at like last second stuff? Like NFL, you hear about it. Oh, this guy's probably not going to play.
NFL's a little bit more buttoned up and mandated. Like
Okay.
there's an injury report midweek. And
Yes.
and the coaches are. A lot of coaches aren't that honest about it.
Okay.
Like Bill Belichick, he'll just put everybody on the injury report and say hell with it. Like make a little bit of a mockery of it.
Oh, God.
But the NBA is tough because there's so many games. They're during the week, and there's so many game time decisions, and it's just commonplace. Now, it's even gained a term. It's called load management. Like that's cropped up over the last couple of years. Like there's never such a thing as load management.
What is that?
That's saying we can only play X amount of minutes per week. We got to manage our load.
Like the amount of load that is being put on the individual.
Right.
So it's like a
manage
truck
that
driver
load.
that only can drive
Exactly.
so many
Yep.
hours
Yeah.
a day.
Yep, that's load management
Okay.
in today's NBA talk, and
Huh.
it's just I think it's garbage. I'd say if you're injured or you're hurt, take a day off.
Yeah, put it
right?
out there.
Yeah, but what's going on now is you got players that just straight up, nope, I'm not playing back to backs. Nope, I'm going to take this whole week off or 2 weeks off, and the league itself has no quote unquote leverage. They just got to let this go. In fact, embrace it. Like what you just saw with this All-Star weekend. It was a joke. It was a frickin' joke. On top of that, another part of this joke, first off, the game's terrible because they don't play defense.
Well, I was
So
going to say,
it's just
yeah.
a spectacle.
Yeah.
So it's not fun. It's not entertaining. And then like the what does draw people, like the slam dunk contest, none of your stars play in it anymore because they don't want to get embarrassed. They don't want to get beat by a new up-and-comer.
Oh.
Could you imagine Dominique Wilkins or Michael Jordan, when they're trying to hold on, they're 26, 27, and they want to show everyone they still got it. just throwing their hands up and be like, no, I'm not doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't care if you invited me. I'm not doing it. No, that's not what you see in your heroes or what you think of your heroes as.
Right.
And now it's just commonplace in the NBA. I think they're really, for lack of a better term, they're stepping on their own dick here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
maybe the NBA is going to go away with it like NFL did, right? They didn't do their game that they normally do,
That's
right?
what I
We
was
talked
gonna-
about that.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to bring up next, and I was going to ask Andy, like, what's your
What's up with that?
thoughts on the Pro Bowl?
Because they
right?
don't ever
'Cause that
play
was-
either, right?
I hate the Pro Bowl.
They barely tackled them.
It was
That
a
was
flag. It was a flag
No, but
football
they-
game this
Yeah,
last
they
year.
Yeah.
didn't. It is completely different this year than every other year,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
They
But
didn't
even-
actually. They didn't actually play the game.
Yes, but I'm saying previously they did, and it was so.
Yeah.
Oh, I
Yeah.
just basically tagged you.
It was in the 90s. Like, that was some crazy stuff
Oh,
in
I
the
know.
90s. That was fun,
But,
and you
like-
also got to see rivalries come up. Like, it was fun.
So now we're just so worried about injuring everybody.
Yep, and I get it. Like, man, I don't want to have a career-ending, altering injury in a exhibition
So
game.
is that, in a roundabout way, an admittance by the NFL of saying that we're running a really dangerous sport, and if it's not necessary, we're not going to do it?
I think so, and I can buy it with the NFL a little bit better.
Yeah.
But not the NBA.
Yeah,
Like, go
we're-
play a game.
We're just
No,
playing
but I
a
mean,
basketball
my
game.
point is that with the NFL, it's always been like, oh no, we have all these safeties, we got cutting edge helmets, and we got all this
Yeah.
great protection going on, and no,
Yeah.
guys don't get hurt. No, this stuff doesn't happen. It's not our fault. But then, but if we don't really need them to take some hits, we're going to have them not do that.
I wouldn't say it's the NFL. It's the
Yeah.
players. It
Okay.
was player driven.
They demand it.
The previous year, the players just straight up said, "We're not doing this."
The Pro Bowl.
Yeah.
So it's like a boycott, kind
It
of.
was a kind of a boycott, but in lifetime it was so ridiculous. Guys were just playing patty cake out
Yes.
there.
Yeah.
It was something else.
Okay.
So it was player driven, and then the NFL was forced to just come around and be like, "All right, well, you guys at least do a flag football game, because guess what? Guess what, you assholes? We set this All-Star Weekend game up, and you get paid to participate in it. You get a bonus check if you're invited to participate in it. And when we make all this money, it's distributed to you. You signed off on this through the latest player, the agreement, the player association with the league's agreement. You guys asked for all these provisions, asked for more money. We gave it to you. Now hold up
Show
your
up.
show up and play the game." And it's one of those deals where you have guys that have not progressed as far as, "I'm in middle school and I'm really fast."
Yeah.
that mentality. You're getting to play a game. And then you get put in a room with a bunch of guys that went the opposite way. They really progressed. Now they're executives for a league like the NFL. And you're trying to go toe-to-toe with them and bargain. The collective bargaining agreement, that's what it was.
Oh yeah.
So you have millionaires versus billionaires. Who do you think's going to win in that?
Yeah.
I mean,
Money
come on,
talks.
guys. Come
Yeah.
on, guys.
Yeah.
Right.
And you're making all these demands, and then it's like, okay, here you go.
Own up to it now.
Now own up to it.
Yeah.
Just in a joking manner, getting back to this NBA All-Star game, the slam dunk contest was pretty good. It was really entertaining.
Okay.
But a guy from one of the developmental leagues, the G League, used to be called the D League. That was offensive, so they changed it to the G League.
Oh, God.
Developmental leagues. I mean, isn't it just hilarious? But anyhow, a guy, and it was a white guy, won the dunk contest.
He did.
yes, he
Good for
did.
him.
Yep, and-
White men can jump.
That's exactly what Stephen A. Smith said on ESPN this morning. Yep, white man can jump. How about that?
So you could be an announcer.
Hey, I
But-
would have to fix my voice.
But this is a true story. The last time a white guy won the dunk contest, they just did away with it for a few years.
Oh, really?
They just canned it.
Stop it.
I'm not kidding you. Rick Barry won it back in the 90s, and the NBA was like, all right, we're going to have to reevaluate this.
So we have to wait and see if they're going to bring it back next year?
I mean, I'm just throwing out, I'm like, well, last time this happened, it was a little bit of a debacle. So,
Jeez.
I mean, it's just,
How tall was this guy?
oh, he was a tall dude. Athletic, obviously. Extremely athletic dude. I think
Good for him.
one of his dunks, he jumped over a dude that had a guy on his shoulders, touched the ball off the backboard, and then dunked it.
Shut up.
I mean, that's the tippy top of as far as athletic a guy can be. I mean, just unbelievable.
Yeah.
Yeah. But once again, it's a guy, I don't even know his name right now. I can't even
Right,
draw it up
right.
because he's from the G League. Didn't even get drafted in the top 2 rounds. Like,
It wasn't the big dogs. in the dunk contest.
No, we wanted to see the All-Stars participate in the All-Star weekend, and we can't even get that nowadays.
Yeah.
You know?
And those, I mean, and I guess maybe that's a good way for some of those no-namers to make a name for themselves and come up.
Yeah.
Say,
I'll do it. I'll play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then maybe the big guys get a little worried, like, oh, crap.
They should be.
Maybe I should have gone down there and done that.
That's kind of one of the paths I want to go down. Maybe that's how we can wrap it up. Is that if you're going to keep pushing this envelope and saying you're not going to play, you're not going to do this, well, get ready, because there's a backside to that where people are going to forget about you. People are going to be like, you know what? That guy that came in behind him, and they passed the ball around and they scored, at an extremely high rate. The ball didn't get sticky. It didn't just stay with James Harden. He dribbled it for 15 minutes and then shoot it. That's kind of enjoyable basketball. That was a good play. I might have liked that. So just be careful what you wish for, I guess, is kind of my message.
Yeah, and don't you think, like, to that point, at some point, these professional athletes, as they're coming up and they're getting into the big game, need to realize, yes, you're still an athlete, but actually you're an entertainer.
Right.
Like, you now do what you do for the fans.
Right.
You're not doing what you're doing for yourself anymore. And I think that's a big mind change, from people who have raised and are raising athletes.
Yeah.
It's always like, all right, you got to work hard. There has to be intrinsic value. You have to feel good about what you're doing, when you leave the field and so on and so forth. But then you get to the big leagues, man, and now all of a sudden you're doing it for someone else.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line.
Well, and you're doing it for the paycheck, and the
I was
paycheck
just
is
gonna
because
say.
you're doing it on a stage like that.
Because you're doing it for someone else that's
Yeah.
paying into that thing that pays your paycheck.
Yeah.
You are now an entertainer, so you have a responsibility to the fans, not to yourself anymore.
But that's
you know
not,
what I mean?
Yeah.
That's not how they think,
That's
though.
that's a great point and a great point of view, and that's where they're really missing that.
Yeah.
Like, they just do not understand that whatsoever.
And that goes back to what I said earlier about the example that you set and the responsibility that you have to set that good example for those kids that are looking up to you.
Yep.
Which we could talk about and go down a rabbit hole on.
Well, one of the most famous and Nike campaigns that ever came out was back in the 90s. Once again, it was Charles Barkley, and he straight up they showed a bunch of highlights of him dunking it, this and that, and they cut to a black and white shot of him, and he said, "I'm not a role model. Go find a mentor. Talk to your parents. Talk to your coach. I should not be a role model because I could dunk a basketball."
This is Barkley?
This is Charles Barkley. And I mean, yeah, like the fact that he had the awareness, because he's pretty rough around the edges.
Yeah.
But the fact that he got out there and said that, instead of living in la-la world and wanting both ends of it, he just straight up said, "Look, I should not be your role model. Your parents should be. Your coach should be.
Your parents and your coach should be first, but those guys can't deny that responsibility.
No,
because they're
heroes.
on a national stage, all the time.
Yep.
They're getting seen by everything. I think, I guess one of the last things that I would say is we just recently watched that documentary with Shaq on HBO. Have you seen that yet?
So good.
Super interesting. It's like a 4-part documentary about his career and life and so on and so forth. And that was one of the things that even to today that Shaq really understands for all of his faults is that people are watching him.
Yeah. Yep.
And he figured out in his current life how to leverage that, how to be like one of the greatest marketers on the planet.
Oh, he is too.
Because he's being
You
watched.
have to watch that.
Yeah.
And that's just the fact. That's how it works. You are being watched. You are being mimicked. People are wanting to do what you're doing.
Yep.
Which, not taken away from what you're saying, which I was saying a few minutes ago about when they had the party in Kansas City, when some of those guys were acting such a fool with necklaces hanging off their necks and acting
just like a bunch of
that's not
gangsters
how
and- Yeah.
you should have your little kids.
The Super
I
Bowl
feel
party?
like
Yeah.
looking up to
The
people,
parade, the Kansas City
it's just
parade
too
and all
much.
that.
That's not
Yeah. Yeah.
getting drunk in front of, I don't know, just it was a lot. And I
And-
thought,
Overboard drunk.
Yeah.
Yeah.
but anyway, so we're big fans of sports and kids looking up to athletes, but come on, do it the right way.
Shaq, and he was the tail end of that group of guys, that era that I watched, you know. So I'll give him the benefit of the doubt. But I did see an interview with him where he's like, man, if I could do it all over again, I probably would have done a few things different.
Oh, and he says that in
Yeah.
there.
So,
Yeah.
and, you know, at the time, though, he was very self-absorbed, young guy, millionaire, and he wanted the bright lights, and so he had to go to L.A. And, you know, I think, if he, like I said, if he could have rewound it a little bit, which takes a lot of awareness, actualization, whatever you want to call it.
Right.
But I think he's come around.
Yeah.
And that's where I feel like a lot of players nowadays, they need to watch that documentary too.
Yep.
Yeah.
You know?
And learn it a little bit sooner.
Right.
You know?
Right.
Yeah.
Because whether you want it or not, you are a role model.
You
Yes,
got it,
kids
yeah.
are watching, adults are watching. Anyways, yeah, that was interesting. Good.
Yeah. Toughen up,
interesting
NBA.
stuff.
That's what I'm
Yeah,
saying.
come on, quit being such softies.
Get out there and play.
Yeah. And if you sign a player agreement contract, own up to it.
Right.
Play
Own up to
back
yours.
to back.
Yes. Play some back-to-backs. Because what if I only got games for the Sunday?
Yeah, tickets for the Sunday
Yeah.
game.
Come on, man.
Come on.
Right.
Yeah. All right.
Cool. Well,
That's
anything
it.
else?
Sounds good. No.
Good. All right. Let's shut it down, huh?
All right. Peace.
Later.
Later.